All right, so we are recording. And for everybody who was here prior and everybody watching this on replay, we talked about camping and my skimpy little beard.
Charlie talked about camping. Cheryl did not talk about camping.
Cheryl doesn't camp.
No.
So Cheryl, this is our first joint webinar of the year.
It is.
Yeah, thank you for being my first guest of the year. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the invite.
So I don't even know what we called this, Cheryl, females in finance. So
the rise of women in financial services.
Financial services. Yes. I love that. So just to kind of give a little background here, Cheryl, you and I have known each other about a year and a half, I guess.
Feels longer.
Yeah, I know, right?
Longer. Okay.
Well, it's, you know, what's cool is you're one of those people that the first time I spoke to you, I felt like there was a connection. Now, I don't think I'm the only one because I've seen you at events and you work a room like nobody else. You, like, you know so many people in this industry. It blows my mind. I just got to follow you around, pick up your breadcrumbs, you know?
You're so silly.
So we ran a panel together last year at Joel.
That's right.
And I've very much enjoyed getting to know you over the last, and I had to look at it, year and a half. It does feel like much longer. This is a really important conversation that we're having today, but of course, it's something that you live every minute of every day.
It is.
And being around this industry for a while, I've witnessed the growth and the rise of women in financial services, but you're a driving force behind it, and you can actually quantify what that is. I mean, I see it, and anecdotally, I know it's happening. And of course, balancing our industry and getting influx in women in leadership and in advisory roles is so important for, you know, for the growth and the evolution of this industry.
Agree.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So yeah, I was going to say, I hope that everybody who is here with us today or those who watch on replay, for those who hear live, I'd love for you to feel free to use the chat and the Q&A to ask questions about this particular topic, because as much work as we've done at Females in Finance, there's so much more. There's so much more needed. There's so much more help. And I do believe it's going to take all of us to make that change actually happen. As far as, you know, our community is concerned, 2017, I interviewed about 400 women about what they needed to in a real community. What did they want to see? And 383 of them responded. And people asked me about that number. And I'm like, have you ever called 383 women? It's a lot. It was enough. And it was a good enough, you know, the feedback said, you know, hey, I want to help hire, or I want to help advance women. I want to be mentored, or I want to be a mentor. And I want, you know, to have training workshops and such. And so we really crafted something around what everybody wanted. It wasn't like I set out, you know, hey, I'm going to start this membership organization. It is very hard work. For those of you who think, oh, I'm going to start my own membership community, it is not for the faint of heart. There is a lot of trial tribulation that comes with it, but what also comes with it is a lot of feedback, and the feedback is fuel. And so when I look at what we're doing here at Females in Finance, that's great. You know, 4,137 members, we resonated, it connected. But what we're really, the challenge out there is how do we look at our landscape of professionals and make it better? Because the numbers are actually still fairly much the same. Unfortunately, I've been doing this for 33 years now. And the numbers are, I think we've moved from like 12% to 16%.
And I think, Cheryl, I've looked at that number several times. Nuts. It depends on where you look, but you get different numbers no matter where you do your research.
You do. And some organizations do a better job than others. You know, I really want to love on folks like those at Riskalyze, for example. They have such a vetting process that is, I think it's a 9-step process to get hired into that. So every person there, you feel like you automatically love them and know them. And they're, it's because of how they're hiring. We want to take those types of practice and relate it and relay it over to other organizations so that we can each craft out something that is so much more inclusive. I tell everyone I am very female centric first, diversity second. And I have to be, because, and the reason for that is because for every person out there, a woman made every human being on this planet. So how are we a secondary market, or how are we lumped into another market pool? We are the only market. We make all the markets. So I'm really, really passionate about the idea of, are we, building businesses for women? Are we presenting to women in a way that's inclusive and inviting? And that's what I work with all of these professionals in our organization to try to bring out to everyone else.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let me lay a little bit of groundwork real quick. we do a lot of the webinars we bring in are very much educational, and I'm just kind of wallflower and, monitoring chat and things like that. This is really almost a live podcast, if you will. But what I love about doing that in webinar format, because we got our podcast going and stuff too, what I love about doing that in webinar format is we actually have an active participating audience as opposed to a bunch of listeners after the fact. So, and that number continues to grow every time I look at the attendee list. So as you said earlier, whether it's in the chat or whether it's in the Q&A, if you've got questions for Sheryl or for me, by all means, just put it in there, and between conversation and questions, we'll get to everything. I got 4 or 5 questions for you, Sheryl, lined up for today. But I figured that would just kind of spur, conversation. You already answered the first one, actually. So when you and I first spoke about females in finance, and I am a member, so just, for
you are,
I'm a member and a user, and I try to be active in the community. I think you told me 3,300 members is what you had when I first asked that question of you, which is probably us prepping for that Jolt conversation.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Maybe a year ago.
That's right.
That's 700 members in the last year, 800 members in the last year.
Yeah, it's about 100 something a month. And we do vet everyone. So that means those are meetings. So when someone says to me, like, how many meetings do you do a day, Sheryl? I'm like 9 to 12. And they look at me and I'm like, yeah, that's how many people, there's so much people out there I want to have, I vet because I'm looking for abundance minded individuals. We already have a financial services landscape. It's out there. I'm trying to build something that is very unique, very inclusive, yet, exclusive, abundance, big hearted. And I think I've done that. And anybody who's here and is a member, they experience it. They know it is different. We're very much about helping. It's very, I tried to take the proverbial cup of sugar next door, but digitize it so that people feel I challenge myself. I don't even know if you know this, but I challenge myself that I actually look back and make certain I've referred people to at least 10 other people in the profession.
Yeah.
That's a personal challenge for me.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, a lot of my friends are members as well and sponsors the community. I see the promotion you do. You promote every webinar I do.
Yeah, I do.
And thank you for that. Right. But, try to.
Well, you're interviewing great people. So it makes it pretty easy.
Point. But it's not only the promotion piece of it. Right. And I appreciate that. And it is really the value piece of it, right? So the reason I invited you to be here today, and I'll tell everybody that Sheryl's got to be the busiest or hardest working person in financial services, because booking her for a webinar is not easy.
I just had somebody who was trying to book a call with me, and they're like, February 1st. I'm like, that's what I got.
Yeah,
take it.
Yeah. So and so I do so much appreciate the time. But my point in all that, I think I lost track on that. What do you attribute that growth, 100 members a month? I was talking about the promotion and the airtime you every one of those members that has something value to promote. What do you attribute that growth to?
It's all word of mouth. I have to this very day in 4.5 years, never once paid for one ad to ever be. I've never advertised anything other than like what I formally have posted on LinkedIn myself, right? It's all word of mouth. I think that the reason why it resonates is I get two types of people who come to me. There's the one who can't believe it's almost like too good to be true. Like there's not somebody out there who really cares enough about all of us enough that they'd be willing to do this. Yeah. And yes, I am that crazy person. It takes one really crazy person to do this. It does. And I care enough. And anybody who knows me knows I really mean that. I genuinely, give a crap enough about what's going on in our profession. And then you get the other ones who are really very excited to come in and they don't know where to start, kind of a thing. And I always tell everybody, since the day we've opened our doors, in my advisory board, I can hear them right now, Cheryl Nash and all of them, and Tina Powell saying, we've told you, I've always had a free point of entry. Since day one, we have, an ability for you to network, because what I felt was problematic is so many areas of a financial service professional is charged for everything. Mm-hmm. And I thought, how can we keep this low? Now, transparently, the other question I want to answer is, well, how can you afford it then, right? Well, we have sponsors. We need sponsors. If you know a sponsor, please send them to me, because we need them in order to make the change happen. Because we run fairly nonprofitish, even though we are a for-profit company because we're pouring so much back into the professionals. But I thought that was really important because then people can come in through no skin in the game at the beginning to say, hey, this is really different. Come check it out. And they do. And oftentimes, obviously they stay. We've had very few people who've ever actually left, like formally left our membership.
Yeah, I can't imagine why.
So yeah. And, and I'm trying really hard to make certain that I don't know, maybe it sounds like Girl Scouts to leave it better than the way I found it.
Yeah.
I believe in that. And I think if we all did that, like every situation you come into, just make it a little better than the way you originally found it. Think about how much better the world would sound. It sounds super kumbaya when I say it out loud, I know. But I think we're due for some woo-woo.
Yeah, that's a great
I think
mission.
we're totally due for it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's start at the very basics. I think
All
we're well past the start already, but let's get back to the basics.
Yeah.
Maybe a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Mhm.
Why is it important that we support women in financial services?
Well, there's an innate ability for us to work with individuals and sort of read the relational tones of what's going on out there. I think men are very good at that. I'm overgeneralizing, I realize, but for the most part, I'm going to liken it to my personal. I point the finger at me. When I got married, I sold my house. I moved to my husband's house. He's lived here 17 years. I asked him, who's the neighbor? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? 17 years, you don't know your neighbors? And so I, of course, held an event. We hired a band, put it out here we invited everybody in the neighborhood. I live in 29 homes. It's a small community. Everybody to come together. And I wanted to know. And I'm like, got business cards. I'm giving them my number. My husband's like, who is she? And guess what? Now I know everybody in our community.
Yeah.
Women are really good at figuring out that part of the piece. Building community becomes very natural to who we are. And I think if this is not a skill set that you have, inviting a woman and then taking it to the next level, diverse candidate on top of that, you're going to get into communities of people you've never met. You're going to learn about personal currency of individuals, because honestly, it's what drives their actual fiscal currency as well. And I think women just naturally, innately appreciate and understand the undertones of the things that are going on. And it actually, so if you want to look at it from the what's in it for me kind of thing for your business, having women involved in that, I think is really, really critical to changing. And I tell you on the website, women will change financial services. I believe it wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Oh, I see it. I see it.
I do too.
So I've got two advisors, and one is a woman, and that's our main advisor,
Yeah.
Carmen. And I will tell you, and this again, gross generalization, right? There is a much more nurturing relationship there. And by virtue of what I do for a living, right? I've been working with financial advisors for 20 plus years. I've spoken to hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, who knows? And I chose a very specific person based on the time that they took with us, the nurturing nature of that relationship. And, unfortunately, we're all part of an industry that still has a pretty negative connotation.
Oh yeah.
A pretty negative viewpoint, public viewpoint, right? I think it's above lawyers. I think it's above.
I don't know about that. It's funny. If those for you on the call, if you do not know who Mike Maddock Douglas, it's an innovation firm in Chicago. Mike, Maria Fronte Shepard wrote a book called Flirting with the Uninterested. And I highly recommend that you read this book. Mike Maddock is a very good friend of mine. I went into their office and they have a grid. And where do financial advisors fall as far as like the work that we deliver? First of all, people would rather get a root canal.
Yeah.
A root canal.
Yeah.
I guess because they get anesthetic. I don't know. They'd rather do that. So we're falling very low in that space because a lot of it's trepidation, it's unknown. They don't know. And when we don't know things, what do? We get scared. When we get scared, what do? Apathy, nothing. We sit in that space. So we're out there trying to shake the trees and stuff for them. And they're like, no, don't do that. And until they realize, oh, wait, they can shake the trees and we're okay. Okay, keep going. We're sort of breaking through that. So that's where one of the things, like you just mentioned there, about where do we fall? Ooh,
it's low.
It's pretty low.
It's low. It's low.
And it's a very noble profession on top of it, right?
Well, and I think that the industry has done the things it's needed to change a lot of that. Unfortunately, that's legacy perception, and it's going to take time and probably the expiration of a generation or two to change it. But the fee-based financial planning aspect, right? And the and there's biases in the way that even fee-based is charged, right? There's biases there, but it's better than the inherent biases in a commission-based structure.
Oh, mercy. Yes. And, I'm so glad you brought that up, because one of the things that I very much love about what I do at Females in Finance is when I learn about people's practice and how they've built it and the clientele, I sit back and I think, wow, I love the innovation that's coming with it. Like some of those that are out there working with groups of clients that maybe in the past people would have never touched upon and worked with. And now today they have somebody who's a go-to in that space. There's one who works with, those in the adult entertainment industry as an example, very taboo to say that a lot of times in the past. There is an advisor who's working specifically in that space. And I have such respect for her, because I thought, you just went out and went to some place that nobody else like dared to go before, kind of a thing. Right. And she's providing real valuable, content and relational, relation oriented type of work, and judgment free.
Yeah. We've got a few clients, female clients, that focus on newly single women.
Yeah.
Right. Divorce, widow, whatever that might be. Right. And I'm sure that sort of support was there prior to a rise of women in the industry. But I think, both of those clients, both women that focus on that particular industry. So I think it takes the addition of women and the growth of women in financial services are lending services to very specifically those targets as well. So love that. One of the things I hope to do, in addition to bring value to our network, for doing that, Sheryl. Talk to me a little bit about the benefits of membership, because I hope that everybody who's on here who is not already a member becomes a member. So tell me a little bit about benefits of being part of Females in Finance.
Yeah. And I appreciate that question. The first thing I like to say is everyone needs a community. I don't care if it's not mine, to be honest, but we need to belong somewhere. It's part of being a human being, is belonging, that acceptance, and being a part of people who see me, get me. So whatever that is for you and that feel for you, please spend time there. Schedule the time to be in that community. Don't sign up for everything just to spend, don't piece and parcel. Find something that's you and connect to it. For us, the benefits of membership, I would say, is that we do a good job of connecting professionals to things that they need. Because the interview process that we do, that discovery call, I'm actually asking them, like, I always start off every call with, tell me about your greatness. Cool. I get a lot of giggles with that, though. A lot of people who will kind of like, and I'm like, you question whether you have greatness. And there's a poem, anyone can go out there and look at it. It's called Remember Your Greatness. And Susie Kazem, who is an Egyptian-American, poet, and she writes about how we go through this grueling process of being born. We're literally born with our greatness. We won the race of life. We're here.
Yeah.
You doubt that you have greatness? You're showing up every day. Like, you've got air in your lungs. I mean, this is it. This is it. All right. So don't waste and squander that. So I always ask about their greatness. And when they do, what I think is really fascinating. All right. So here we go. Another overgeneralization, because it leads to the benefits that we offer. We hear a lot of times from the male allies who come, I love, because they do come and say, how can I help? And I appreciate that question so very much, because there is so much help that can be found in that. But the women, what they will oftentimes say to me on a call is something that sounds like this. Well, I've written a couple books, but that was a few years ago. And I'm looking at, I'm watching them and I'm like, stop. You wrote a book.
Yeah.
Can we go back and sit in that greatness for a hot second? Tell me about that book. And when they can talk for that 25 minutes or, 30 minutes, if we spend together, about the things that they do, I can find so many nuggets of people that they should know. And are you connected here? Have you heard about this tool? That type of value, like I said, leaving it better than the way I found it. Yeah. It leads to the benefits of what we have, because that connection call, getting referred out to, I try to leave at least with 3 people that you get to know that you never met before, to expand your network, because you got to expand. If you keep staying the same, You guys know the adage of the rubber band. Once you stretch it, it can't go back to the way it was. I want to stretch people, even if it's, intentionally, directly, or unintentionally, indirectly. I want to stretch them so that they can be a better professional when they leave the call. And I think that the other things we hear back, I tell them all the time, feedback's fuel. I need a speakers bureau. Bam. I need to have access to a career center. Bam. So we're doing a lot of the box checking, the things that they ask for. We even offered last year, we added medical benefits to our membership.
I saw that. Yep. And
Yeah.
that's awesome. And you look at a lot of your members are RIAs, right? And
that was exactly why.
Yeah, like single or small team at best for a lot of them, right? The access to group pricing on things like that,
it's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge. And we also offer, as people tier up, every basic member at our in our organization is $25 a year. I mean, and when people say, I go, stop, I saw you post about an adult Happy Meal. It's $13.50 for an adult Happy Meal. You can afford this. We're not even going to go there.
Yeah.
But that actually gets you access to the group benefits that we do have access to. But as they tier up, we also pour into them. So when they go into Community Plus, we provide a contractor advantage plan. So they have things like cybersecurity insurance and Legal Shield. And you can't even go buy Legal Shield on the market by itself. You at the price that you're paying for us. It's, I can tell you right now, it's $39 a month. It's $19 a month, or, for us. But then you get a Pro Plus, we pay for your telemed benefit. Again, you can't even go out there and get those services without that. So we're trying to pour back into the professional because we want to see them pour into themselves and invest in themselves. One thing I want to make certain I say about this too, when it comes to benefits, at all points of time, you should never look at a benefit as a sacrifice that you're making. Like, oh, I got to pay this money to do that. I don't care whether it's with me or anyone else out there.
Right.
Investing in yourself. You talk with your clients about investing. Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Professionally, personally. Take trainings, courses, whatever you have to do. We provide a lot of that, but I really, really encourage professionals do that.
And going back to your first point when I asked you about membership, you are a connector. So I don't know how many people since I've known you, I don't know how many emails I've gotten. You need to either this person needs to meet me or I need to meet somebody else. So for those of you who are in the community, Sheryl's got a handle on all the resources that are there. I don't know how you do that with 4,100 people.
Number one question I get asked.
Yeah, but the connection rate is awesome there. So thank you for that. All those introductions and
absolutely.
Yeah. So Sheryl is a connector. I think probably number one connector I know in the industry, frankly.
I tell everybody, community building and connection. Those are my two jams. I have very limited talent. I always say limited talents. I can't make mac and cheese out of a box. For some reason, I can't get the consistency right of that stuff, but I can connect people very well. And I enjoy doing it. Like it's actually a privilege. It's an honor to do it.
It's very cool. It's very cool. And so thank you for all that.
Absolutely.
I was not able to be at Riskalyze in October. But I did get the email afterwards about the Fearless Pledge.
Yes, sir.
And I took the pledge.
You did.
Yeah. Tell me about the pledge. Let's tell our audience about the pledge.
So Aaron Klein, So May of 2021, I came up with this idea of what if we could quantify that idea of hiring, mentoring, training, advancing? Like, what would that look like? And it was interesting because I said, 100,000. I always go for the BHAGs, right? And I thought, that sounds like a lot, but it's actually not when you start doing the numbers. So I called a few friends of mine who are actuaries and said, hey, do you know how we could do this together? And they kind of sat down and did some numbers crunching. So thank God they like to do that because I don't actually like to do that part. Yeah. And so we came up with how to hire, mentor, train, advance 100,000 women by the end of 2025. And they're, building a reporting station for it, providing some, structure around that. And Aaron Klein was the first signer of it going into that. And I was super proud of it. We still have a lot to do, but I have to say something. When a woman, I just want to show you how real this is. When a woman says something like 100,000, I was called crazy. That's crazy. You're crazy. That's too big a number. But I kid you not, if you look at the timeline, we can have 10 days later after I made the announcement at Fearless Pledge, wealthmanagement.com did a big interview with me on this whole thing. Schwab Impact sent out an article. We need to hire 75,000 RIAs in the next 5 years just to serve those who need someone right now today. Yeah. Oh, then everybody talked about, I'm like, are you kidding me? I just said that 10 days before and I was nuts. That just gives you an idea as a woman what we're up against at all
Well,
times.
I'm gonna throw, I think it might have the size of the brand is an impact as well.
Oh, I know this too, but
Right,
I'm just
right.
giving you an
So
idea
yeah,
that is very much very true. And I'm not, and I'm not bagging on, if Schwab can go out there and do it better than me,
yep,
go.
right,
But I think it's going to take all of us. It takes a village to get
for
this
sure,
job done.
for sure.
And so I felt very vindicated the day that article came
Yeah,
out. I was like, yes, I
yeah,
said this. I said this. And
yeah,
so it just meant that, think about it this way. I'm a very small business compared to Schwab. And yet
yep,
I was able to pretty much crunch the numbers around the same number.
yeah.
So I want a little respect back too for being a small brand and figuring out exactly
All kinds
that
of respect.
that number is in fact valid, and we
Yeah,
can do this.
yeah,
What's the numbers? That's a better question. What is the numbers? So for us to maintain our downward dip is 3 people. That means I have to be responsible for bringing 3 people into this profession.
okay,
There's going to be there's going to be some, attrition. There's going to be things that just happen, right?
sure, sure.
But if we want to start, nose tipping it up just even a little bit, not a lot, 5. If we want to see an actual trajectory change, it's a minimum of 10, if not more.
Yeah,
So think of every person that's on this call right now times 10. We're talking about hundreds of people we have to impact.
yeah.
And ask yourself truthfully today, have I made certain that I've brought 10 people into this profession? Have I actually done that? Have I? There's a lot of
I,
people who, when they stop, they go, maybe not so
yeah,
much.
maybe not. I don't know
Yeah,
that I
I don't
have.
know.
You know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And that's where, for me, I started thinking we need to quantify that.
yeah,
We need to quantify and being able to report back, hey, this is what's working. Hey, this is what's not working. And then report that so we can all be better professionals.
yeah,
So the numbers are real. They don't lie. And that's one thing I love about the work that we do. But I want to be, by the time I, retire or at least leave this profession, which, 33 years, I got about, oh, you're not getting rid of me yet, guys. I got at least another 10 to 15. And is I want to see that I was responsible for maybe a little bit of stalling that dip, and I would like to be even better about, could I tip it to come back up? Because then I feel like I left the profession better than the way I found it.
yeah. And that's what an awesome mission you have, right? And you're impacting almost 4,200 people every single day.
Yeah.
Um, let's I want to talk a little bit more about the community.
Yeah.
Right. So I get my information about the community through LinkedIn more than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Where do you see people participating? I know there's there's a Facebook group.
There is very active. Yeah.
Certainly an email list.
Yep.
Talk about all those different facets
Ooh.
on how, yeah. There's a
And
lot to it, Sheryl.
there is a lot to it. And I manage it myself. So this is one of the things people don't know. I do not have staff. So when you think staff, if the cat laying in this window right now is staff, then it's staff. I'm very, very efficient. And
Yeah.
I'm also detail oriented. And I think it's really helped me over the years. So I don't allow a lot of space there's not a lot of variable involved for being lazy about stuff. I'm very, very,
Right.
Intentional.
Right.
We do have, like you mentioned, the Facebook group, which is, really been very, very helpful in connecting people. We have LinkedIn. We have LinkedIn group. Believe it or not, that one has actually in the last year really kind of changed. Microsoft, thank you. You're finally starting to put group posts in the
Yep.
feed, whereas
Yep.
they used to just never be anywhere. They're actually popping up now. So go Microsoft. But Instagram was an interesting one. We've used it more for announcing events coming up. People are using it more as an announcement board really than any type of interaction board. So I think we post all of our events out there to make sure people know what's going on and how to, connect and that sort of thing. So we've had to adopt and adapt with the flux and flow of our organization as it's grown.
Yeah.
I do say this is one thing that we do have email marketing, but I still send out the personal invites, if you can imagine. So for every person that is in our CRM, I know I saw your face because I know what you do for a living.
Yeah.
I actually pull them together and send them into a group email for me, Sheryl, and say, this is what's going on today. I would love for you to come. And if not, I would like you to respond and we'll make sure you get the invite, for the replay or whatever. And they know I follow through on that. But again, It comes back to only do these things that I'm talking about if you can be as efficient as me. If you cannot, please, please, please listen to Charlie his advice on email marketing.
I was going to say, I think we could clone you. or absent of cloning you, we could automate a few of those processes and add hours to your day or whatever we have
Yeah,
to
I
do
know.
there.
Yeah, I've got it down to such a science now that as soon as I, log somebody, it's already done within the first like 10 minutes of them joining. It's finished.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that's where it goes. So my father was in the service and he used to tell me anything you can do in 2 minutes or less, do it because it'll be hours of work later. So I took that when I started my business. I thought, is this a 2 minute? This is a 2 minute activity. Let's just do it real quick.
Yeah.
And
Hammered up.
I'm so glad I did because
Yeah.
now I have the ability to do that. Not everyone has that same ability to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm very cognizant of that. But I will tell you that when I ask a personal invite to someone to please come, I'm talking about this, or I think it's important to you.
Yeah.
They know I'm not bothering them unless I really feel like it's
Yeah.
important
There's
to them.
something there. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Sheryl, do you know what the percentage of members are male?
Yeah.
For females in finance?
Yeah. We have 298 men on the platform. I always know my numbers.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. So it's actually, it's a pretty small number.
It is. For every man who's part of our Male Ally Network, they can go to maleallynetwork.com. We call it the Man Initiative. The Man Initiative is because every company has a women's initiative. So we have a man initiative. And what we're out there doing is looking for all the great men, the ones who want to see the profession change. And so every man has to actually be recommended by a woman or sponsored by a woman.
Cool.
Because if there's any problems, guess who's going? Everybody's going because I'm old. I have zero tolerance anymore for, crummy behavior and the men who've come. Literally, one of the questions I've also been asked, and I'll be transparent, is how many men have we removed from the platform too? There's honesty for you too. They just didn't behave the way that, we have a code of a conduct kind of thing that we share on Facebook and such. And if you're not meeting that, see ya. And guess who went with them? The women that recommended them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't have too many problems. I raised 5 children. I have no time for figuring out who was on first.
Yeah. But okay, so the better together. Let's talk about better together.
Oh, my better together. Yeah. We are better together.
Agreed.
Better together. I've told people before, when I started in this profession, I had a wonderful male ally, Robert Brumby. Robert Brumby was my mentor from the get-go, and he is still my mentor to this day.
Cool.
He is 76 and lives in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I travel to Georgia quite a bit because of that, because I go and spend a weekend with him and his wife every year. I don't make any major decisions without his input, but he was so instrumental at the beginning. But here's the thing. When people are saying, first of all, I don't believe that we cut off an entire group of people just because poor behavior from someone else. Like no one should be paying debts today to society for behavior from others from previously. And I believe that. That's why we vet. And that's why we talk to people about, what we're trying to accomplish. Yeah. Those men, they do fabulous things. Like, for example, I'll give you an example of one male ally in our group. One of the male allies to this day has sponsored more anonymously, more women who couldn't afford to pay for their annual memberships because of a variety of reasons. They're just new to the business or whatever. And he's always like, I don't want them to know, I'll pay for them. And I send him an email. He checks like, yeah, I want to go ahead and cover that. But he never wants his identification to be known.
Cool.
He doesn't want anybody to think that he's doing something and then getting like, oh, look, I did this for recognition. I think that's really important to recognize, because the better together means that we are trying to be better together. Like, I want you to win, Charlie, but I want to win too.
Yeah.
And I want you to want me to win.
Yeah.
And I say everything all the time. Just because I'm saving dolphins doesn't mean I'm killing whales. The ocean exists for a reason, because we need the ecosystem. You take one piece of that ecosystem out, oftentimes the ecosystem it dies, because that one person's contribution was so critical to the rest of us in that ocean space. So I think it's really wrong. Yeah. And I know there's organizations out there that do that, and more power to them. If they find that that's going to work for them long-term, great. But I just have found too often that there are wonderful, wonderful people out there who want to see us do well, men and women, members, non-members, sponsors, not sponsors. And if that's the case, then I want to partner and work with them more closely to get the work done. And I want it done faster and sooner, because I'm 52 and I don't want to do this till I die. How's that for
So,
honesty?
yeah. Well, listen, you got only a couple on me, but you got more years. You got a lot more years in the industry than I do.
Yeah, I think it's
That's
that.
awesome.
And I think that I want to say one thing too, going back to Robert,
Yeah.
when we're given advice by mentors, heed it. Actually act on it. So one of the pieces of advice I gave was Robert had said to me, we were doing something at the office, and I don't know if I was just waiting for a seat for at the table, kind of a thing.
Gotcha.
But he looked at me and he pointed, I'll never forget the seat. After everything was done, and he had me come into his office and he said, shut the door for a second. And I said, oh, okay. You know, nobody likes a shut door because that means
Yeah.
we're losing a job. Like principal's office
Well,
somehow bears on our mind. But I shut the door and I turned around and he said, don't you ever not take a seat at the table. In fact, when you walk in any room from this day forward, you sit there like you mean it, like it was built for you. That table was literally built for you to sit right there.
Cool.
And take that seat and you sit there, even if you don't even know anything going on. It doesn't matter. Act as if. The other thing that he also told me, which was funny, was to resist the urge to take a jillion notes, because I tend to be a, that person who writes everything down. And so as we've progressed in technology, I love talk to
makes
text.
that.
I know I can just set that iPad out and talk to text and let's go. And I don't have to sit there and take as many notes anymore, because I've resisted that urge. But it was just because we didn't want to be seen as the person in the room who was a note taker, because you'll always be deemed the note taker.
Well, yeah, it's almost a secretarial role, being a traditional woman's role. I can see what he means for sure.
Well, and I want to add one more thing too, because I sat sort of outside. So before I moved into my own office, I had like an executive cube, and right up on the other side of it was that copy. Remember the copiers, the big copiers? They look like R2D2 kind of thing. Okay. And I was sitting there and somebody came around and said to me like, hey, the copier. And I, without missing a beat, turned and said, I have no idea what you're talking about. You better find somebody who does that, because it is not me.
It is not me.
And did I know how to do it? Yes, I did. I totally told a lie, but I knew that if I fixed the copier, I would forever be the copy girl. I was going to be that copy person to fix it. And I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to get me where I wanted to go. So I was listening to my mentor's advice and I was heeding it. And a lot of people don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. I got a couple questions, Sheryl.
Yeah.
How can we get more men in your community?
I love that question. You can go to maleallynetwork.com.
Okay.
And you can set up it'll send me an email, but we'll set up some time to talk and see what you want to accomplish and how I can help you back.
Awesome. Secondarily, primarily, frankly, but the second question, how can men in our industry best support women and the growth of women in our industry outside of females in finance, right? So
I love that question.
And the fearless pledge, right? So we've taken the pledge for sure, but how can, in a male dominated industry, traditionally male dominated industry, how can men better support women?
Recognize unconscious bias. So for example, if you have an unconscious bias to speaking to middle-aged white men for yourself, and everybody has one. For every person who doesn't, that's a lie. We do that naturally, and it's to find people that we have likeness to. You literally have to stretch yourself and exercise, I'm going to meet X amount of people. So some of the challenges that I say to individuals are, when you go out there on LinkedIn, for example, write articles about people or highlight articles of people that maybe you don't even know them. And just say, hey, I read this article by so-and-so of so-and-so firm. And even if they're competing firms, stop it. There's enough business for all of us. Stop it. But, go out there and use your platform to highlight others. That is really, really important. Another one is that, there's an event. When's the last time you stepped up and said, you know what, I'll give you a good example. I Invest in Women, Charlie Stroller at FA Magazine. I spoke at Invest in Women, I think it was 5 years in a row. And they came and I said, I know wonderful women to have speak at this event. Let me introduce you to them. Cool. I want to be the audience and sit back and clap for them at the end and write the article for them and highlight them. And I think that's really important for people to keep passing that baton. That's how we go faster in the race. It's not holding it all to yourself, because it's just going to take too much time. It's exhausting too. Yeah. So I think men highlighting those, giving opportunities to those, partnering, bring people into your firm. If you're trying to stretch and grow, I love that. Yeah. Hire someone who looks nothing like you, does
Yeah, that's
business
cool.
completely different than you. You're going to change the profession. You'll change yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I told you
Love it.
woo woo is going to go back to woo woo. I
Yeah.
know.
That's good. That's good.
Good.
If I know anything about you, I know
Uh-oh.
that you are always moving forward.
Trying
Right.
to.
So not that you've given me a sneak peek on anything, but what's going on in 2023 for females in
2020.
finance? Yeah. What you can share,
2023.
right?
Yeah,
What
some
is
things
the,
that we're working on. We
yeah.
are working on, so the Fearless Pledge will have its own activation station where people can come in and talk about the work that they're doing so we can highlight it.
Cool.
So that'll be up and running in the first quarter. We have an additional advisor network that I don't want to say yet that will be opening up, that will be featuring a specialty of individuals that I'm working on with some really cool people in the profession that people know.
Cool.
And we are doing our Tuesday topic series. Every single Tuesday, we're going to be having featuring a highlighted speaker from our community who has something really special. Like today's, we're going to be talking to Sam Rennick on childhood financial literacy. And how do we work on with programs like that a little bit more, but really repurposing those tools back and into as guides for our new members and our free members so they have a little bits of bite-sized learning that they can build on from there. But we're always building.
Yeah, I know you are. I know
Always.
you are. Very, very, very cool. So we've had actually, we got one question. Let's see what it is. Sheryl knows everyone. She can recommend anyone when you need it. Stephanie, that's from Stephanie Roberts, Sheryl.
I love Stephanie is our, I'm going to give a shout back to her. Stephanie Roberts came in and sponsored our career center. So for every job that's able to be posted out there, that's because of her and her company and the work they're doing out there to change our profession. So I also want to make certain that we give her a shout back because I wouldn't have been able to build that without her coming in and sponsoring it. So thank you, Stephanie. I'm grateful.
Yeah, Stephanie's awesome. We've had a chance to chat on a handful of occasions. It might have been an introduction from you. I don't know.
Yeah, it might have been. She left the Midwest and ran away to Florida because it's beautiful.
Yeah, well, she's smart that way. Of course, I'm still waiting on roof repair from the hurricanes that came through a month and a half ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So there's whatever. That's just part of being here. We got off easy, Sheryl, but I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We got a couple of others popping in. Oh, and it's Stephanie again. Stephanie, appreciate the heck out of you too, and all the work you guys are doing for, finding good people to fill, job vacancies in the industry. So she's perfect for the Fearless Pledge.
Yeah. And there's a good example of somebody that people should be connecting to, because even if you're not the one hiring and you know that there's other firms where you're connected or go out there and do a shout out for Stephanie. She's out there. She's got so many jobs. A lot of them are posted on our career center on our site, but you can also just reach out to her directly. So she's a fabulous person to know. Yeah.
Sheryl, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to highlight females in finance and for all the great work. And I know it's a lot of work and excuse me, voice is going. Too many phone calls today or something earlier.
There you go.
But I know it's a lot of work and I know that you're looking at staffing up to help out a little bit. But you do a tremendous job at Females in Finance.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled to be a member and honestly mention it whenever I can, try to promote it whenever I can. So anybody who's on the call, schedule that time with Sheryl because it's a great community. Of any community I've ever been a part of, I would say that yours has the most engagement, right? So you have the most participating members of any community I've ever been a part of.
Well, we adore you back and just want to say a shout out to you as well, because you do provide a lot of really good learning opportunities. And I appreciate you giving voice to those out there so that I can tell the stories and hopefully get some more eyes on our members because they are all amazing. Yeah,
very cool. And we are actually working on a learning platform. So I know that's, we're going to join that education economy, if you will.
That's it.
But like one thing that I borrow from you, right, is like, you can't let price be prohibitive.
Yeah.
Right. If you're actually changing lives and impacting people, of course, you've got to get compensated. And of course, you can't take everything out of your pocket to do it. But one of the missions is to keep that price really like rock bottom.
Yeah.
So we can influence more lives. Right. So that's a Q2 initiative for us.
Awesome.
It'll roll out with marketing and sales and business development, which is our specialty, but then bringing in other experts to talk about other topics that are important to the industry. So
I appreciate this. I'm excited for you. So let me know that develops, because you know what I'll do. Is I'll
Yeah,
talk
I
with
will.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. Once the platform is built and we're rolling and we're putting work into it now. So, but we expect it to be a Q2 rollout.
Right on.
I'll certainly let you and everybody else we know about that. Cheryl, where can people find more information? Obviously, femalesinfinance.com. If
Yeah.
I've got the URL correct
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Where else should they check you out?
Yeah. So the females and finance.com, because I get a lot of people say in. It's you can do that. You can Instagram. I mean, you name it. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're all there.
Yeah. You're
We're all there.
you're an easy person to find.
You can find me. You can track
Yeah.
me down. But and it's just Sheryl at femalesandfinance.com if you want to send me an email. So
Yep. Cool. Sheryl Hickerson, thank you for being my friend. Thank you for all the
thank you for being
introductions you've
mine.
made over the years and for being here and and all the impact that you're having on women in the industry. And yeah, I say that women in the industry, but really the industry at large.
Yeah.
Right. The more women that are involved, the more those percentages grow, leadership positions, advisory positions, the better our industry is. So thank you for being a driving force behind all of that.
I appreciate you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
appreciate you too. We'll get a recording out tomorrow, and everybody who took a little bit of time to join Sheryl and I today, absolutely appreciate it. And that time is valuable. It's the only thing you can't make more of.
Amen.
So thanks for spending some of it with us.
Always.
All right, thank you, Sheryl.